Thank you, everyone. It is so good to be with you today because this is a time to celebrate.
Yes.
It's time to celebrate some great ideas and time to celebrate some great people. Don't we have a beautiful day to celebrate? And what a wonderful cause, a beautiful cause to celebrate about. And what amazing Mississippi people we have to celebrate. Our founder fathers gathered in 1776 to sign the most important statement on the nature of true freedom and the purpose of government that has ever been given to the world, the Declaration of Independence. And it declared that all men are created equal and are endowed by that Creator God with unalienable rights. Yes. Rights that are not given by government by their whim, but by God Almighty Himself.
Yes. Yes.
And that government exists only for the purpose of securing those rights, and whose only legitimate powers come from the people with their consent. Right. And they declared much more, but I'm limited to 10 minutes. These were some very radical ideas, and they were so forceful in the hearts of men and women in the American colonies that they birthed true freedom for the first time in the world. These are ideas that deserve celebration because they have proven successful here and everywhere in the world where they have been tried. Unlike the utopian pipe dreams of the socialists that have failed everywhere they have been tried.
That's right.
But you know, freedom is a precious fruit. It grows on the tree of unalienable God-given rights, but it's a delicate fruit which needs continual care and nourishment. The corrupting passions of greed and prejudice and ambition for power can quickly poison and kill it. It must be continually guarded and defended, for its enemies are great in number and they're very determined to strip you of it. 10 years ago today, right here on these very steps, the Mississippi Tea Party was born, as about 3,000 people gathered out here to say no to a socialist president and his radical, un-American ideas.
Yes, that's right.
And what began as a true grassroots movement, the liberal media, the Democrats, and Republicans alike at first ignored, then they labeled it as AstroTurf, before finally attacking it in earnest. But it has not been defeated, and folks, it's not going away.
That's right. Woo, all right. Yay. That's right.
We have so much to celebrate, to rejoice in, and to give God thanks for. Not only do we live in a land where liberty finally found a home, but where it has survived, nearly intact, for over 243 years.
Yes.
But ideas of themselves have no power. To deliver people from oppression and tyranny, it is necessary for the people from all walks of life to take hold of them and fight for them. Now the dust of hard-fought and continuing battles and the screams of our enemies may obscure from view the full extent of your accomplishments, but they are nevertheless real and they're of great significance. You are a formidable people. You were born for just such a time as this. And you, the great people of Mississippi, have accomplished much. And I congratulate you and I celebrate you, for you are worthy of recognition and remembrance and honor. Now let's take a moment and remember to honor and celebrate some Mississippians who rose up in the defense of freedom 10 years ago that deserve to be remembered alongside the great names of the past that Laura mentioned. The first, and in many ways the most notable of those names, is a man named Mark Mayfield.
Yes.
Mark is the true, thank you. Mark is the true father of the Tea Party in Jackson. Yes. On February 19th, 2009, he heard that famous Rick Santelli rant that Laura spoke about. He heard it on TV, and he heard Rick call for a new Tea Party revolt against Obama's policies. Mark was stirred, and he called his friend Kim Wade and said, we've got to do something. We've got to launch a Tea Party here in Mississippi. So first they led a small group. I've heard from 8 to 16 people carrying some signs marked around the Capitol. Then they decided that wasn't good enough. They had to do something bigger. They called together about 30 people that they knew, and 6 weeks later we heard the first Tax Day rally right here in Jackson, Mississippi. And that day, there was something like 20 other cities here in Mississippi who had Tax Day Tea Party rallies. And around the country, about 2,000 rallies on that one day. Noontime, April 15th, 2009. 2,000 cities. That's a true grassroots movement. There was nobody leading it. There was nobody funding it. Nobody organized it. It was a God thing He put in our hearts, and we rose up and we said no. And we stood up beside our family fathers and we said, you are not stealing from us and our children and our grandchildren what our forefathers fought for, died for, bled for, and went broke for. You're not going to do it. Mark Mayfield was one of the noblest, most decent, and honorable men I have ever known. His integrity and wisdom often guided us and saved hotheads like me from actions that would have been counterproductive to the cause. Now, I spoke a few seconds ago about corrupt men spoiling the fruit of freedom. Well, just a few years after that first rally, people of wicked ambition and greed used their influence and power to destroy Mark with exaggerations and lies. They broke Mark, and his family has paid a very heavy price for his patriotism, and the state of Mississippi lost a great leader. Yes. The name of Mark Mayfield will always be remembered by the lovers of freedom and as a great man.
Yes. Woo! Yes.
But the names of certain abominable men and women in this state will forever rot in history as worthy of shame and condemnation. Men and women who actively, knowingly participated in the conspiracy to destroy Mark and steal an election at the same time, while others in high positions of trust, they turned blind eyes and said nothing. God have mercy on their souls.
Yes.
But there are other men who have proven worthy of honor and celebration. And I want to tell you about some of those. Men such as Dr. Rodney Hunt, Forrest Thigpen, and of course Jackson's own political and cultural firebone thrower, radio talk show host Kim Wade. But there were many others, people like Paul Buisson, Harold Hunter, Arnold Jackson, Michael Bostic, Ross Aldrich, Russell Latino, Robert Kennedy, Senator Chris McDaniel, and many more who have been essential and continuing in this effort. Now, unfortunately, history tends to ignore the very important and invaluable roles that women have played in great events. The women of the Tea Party were essential to its formation and success. Without them, this movement would have fizzled and failed. So let's remember and honor a few of their names and contributions. Janice Lane, she was in the audience that day, became chairman of the prayer committee, and within a year, she was unanimously elected president of the newly formed Central Mississippi Tea Party when, as Ross said, the Mississippi Tea Party became a state organization. She is an outspoken, unrepentant supporter of our American ideals, for which she also has paid a heavy price of public ridicule and character assassination by the news media. Pat Bruce, she was one of the organizers of that first event. She arranged for the speakers and did the introductions, and she was our first treasurer. If you're in a fight, there's no one better to have on your side than Pat. Julia Hodges, she helped organize and run much of that event and will continue her involvement with the Tea Party in many positions. Janet Thomas was our first secretary, and she was involved in Mississippi Tea Party activities and political campaigns for several years. Some of the other women, they didn't get a lot of recognition, but I want to mention just a few of the names today. Cindy Wilkerson, Miriam Davis, Kay Allen, Danielle Turpin, Carolyn Wallace, Mary McLaurin, Veronica Naylor, Cheryl Bland, Paula Bostic, Deborah May, Rita Burgess Anderson, Dorothy Marie Jackson, Judy Batson, Margaret Moyes, Noreen Bordelon, Patricia McNeely, Sandy Wheatley, Tricia Raymond, Suzanne O'Keefe, and Senators Angela Hill and Melanie Sojourner, along with hundreds and hundreds more who deserve mention if our time and this old man's memory would allow. There was a fight. There was a fierce fire and fight in the souls of these women that equaled any of the men. And in fact, if truth be known, it was the women who were often the driving force in the tea parties and most often our most effective members. I want to give special recognition to two ladies. I wish they could have been here today. Cindy Salter in Greenwood and Betty Stout in Vicksburg. Both of these ladies had no political or organizing experience. Both faced fierce opposition from the political powers in their cities, but they heard that same rant and they said, we're getting involved too, and they hosted successful Tea Party Tax Day rallies on April 15, 2009. American heroes. And finally, there are two more women worthy of special honor and respect and appreciation. Sandra Inman, right here, was here that day in 2009 and immediately became involved. She's not a speaker, not a writer, and has received little recognition. But through the years, if it were not for Sandra's faithful, diligent, and excellent work, much would have gone undone or would have been done very poorly. Lastly, I want to mention a very special lady, Laura Van Overshaw, the current chairman of the Mississippi Tea Party. Laura was here that first day also. In 2013, she was unanimously elected chairman of the Mississippi Tea Party and has served in that capacity since. Folks, it is to Laura, who has remained faithful in her position through these past years, that we can thank that the Mississippi Tea Party is still here and continuing. Laura, Sandra, would y'all stand with me and thank all these ladies? They deserve so much honor. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies. And I want to thank all of you for all that you have done and all that you're doing. God bless you.
Thank you, Roy, very much. There's so many people who've been involved for such a long time and done so much. Before I introduce the next speaker, I look around. It's hard to believe that I started doing these kind of things when I was 16 years old. Of course, that was just a few weeks ago. But for many of you, you've been doing this a very, very long time and have got the calluses to show it, and we can't thank you all enough. Miss Elva, I see her sitting down there. You can tell she's been around a long time, just from her hair. Isn't that right, Miss Elva? It shows your wisdom. Yeah, she shakes her finger at me every time I do that. But we've got candidates sitting out here and other activists that I look around, and from Ron to Ray Shores over here, and a candidate or two, and we're glad y'all are here and we appreciate it. And there are some young folks here too, truly young people. As I said, I started young, 1980, before I could vote. And I always enjoy seeing young people get involved because they're going to be around longer than us, and they've got more to lose. Now, liberty was fought for and victory came in 1776, give or take. Liberty can be lost, but it is the goal. We've got it and we're losing it. Why are we losing it? Because we don't pay attention. 10 years ago, it was covered here. Where are they now? Where are they now? I do that condescendingly. Why are they not here now? The neo-Marxists, the liberals, the progressives, they haven't given up. They're still fighting. Right here in Mississippi, folks. We know it, we hear, we care. Why are the other folks not here? So when you see folks that have been here before, just because Obama's not in office doesn't mean that the liberals, the progressives, the heathens, the humanists, the communists aren't still out there. They are.
That's right. They are.
You're here because you care. Make the other folks care too. Knowledge is power. James Wilson's a founding father who said, "Law and liberty cannot rationally become the objects of our love unless they become the objects of our knowledge." Law and liberty, knowledge. Now, speaking of somebody who's been around a long time and done a lot, our next speaker, Mr. Vince Thornton, is from down Highway 49, a little place called Collins. Some of you may know it. They got running water and electricity down there not long ago, didn't they, Vince? Electricity went off yesterday. That's not funny.